Hello and welcome. So, kicking the stream off here. This week we're going to be playing about with a few different things. So, if you're about, say hello in the chat. This will be streamed across different platforms. I don't know if I get the different chat though. That'd be interesting. Yeah. So if you haven't seen any of the previous tweets, this is well, this is my lockdown online streaming shenanigans. Dyslexic developer, hello drunk world. So this week, not that it's weekly, I'm going to be playing about with an application I've built out already called Floppy Bundle. So we'll kind of dig in and show a little demo of what that is in a few seconds. But the kind of core idea behind it is, in the world of JavaScript, people want to have really small bundle sizes, and it's kind of this ambition to have the smallest bundle size possible. Kind of had a conversation with some friends, and we were joking about old tech, and how we've come along from the size of storage, and we were talking about floppy disks, and it kind of got me thinking, what if I was able to build something that could tell you how many floppy disks it would take to hold your complete built JavaScript. So that's what we're kind of working on. So gonna get things started soon. So again, if you're in the chat, if you're watching along, say hi. And if the title doesn't suggest, I'm the dyslexic developer, so we're going to struggle along the way. So first things first, crack open our wine. I actually upgraded this week. Normally I drink Tesco Fruity Red, which is $3.75 a bottle. Pounds that is, not, well, thousands or hundreds. Decided to upgrade a little bit to a 5-pound bottle of wine. So this is still a Tesco selected brand, but it's a nice looking Merlot. So we'll get a little bit of wine ASMR. So I think the achievement this time is, so I've already kind of built out a very basic version of Floppy Bundle that will accept a Webpack stats, Webpack stats file, calculate your bundle config from that, and then from there, count up how many floppy disks is. Counting the floppy disks is kind of the easiest bit, but it's gathering the data on the JavaScript, which is the kind of tricky part. So that works fine, but I kind of, as I was doing it, and funny enough, I built Floppy Bundle with Create React App. Create React App doesn't have a easy way to export or generate that stats file, and they don't really value it for some weird reason. They don't think it's a value. I think there's some conflictions about the numbers in the bundle itself can not necessarily match up to what you actually have. So I think it's a case of, that's a cool way to do it, but if I want to do this quicker, I'm not going to go off and I'm not going to generate that file. Not everyone generates that file on every build. So I wanted to see if there was a way that we could do this via code instead. So without further ado, let's first look at Floppy Bundle itself. So I have it running locally here. I'm going to flick over. So this is what Floppy Bundle looks like. I always like to open up the dev tools as well, just so you can see what's going on. So nice little kind of retro-ish looking feel. It has this cool completely HTML and CSS floppy disk that I ripped off CodePen. I need to find the author and give them credit for this. But you can kind of give instructions: generate your Webpack or run Webpack build, give it this flag, and then drag that file in. So if I go over to the stats file that I have, I can drag that in, And I wish I really should have some loading there. It's not the most responsive in the world, but it was kind of built on a whim. So close away. So yeah, we can see better. So it would take 23.25 floppy disks to hold the 2 assets of JavaScript that I have. That is not the most optimal, not the best kind of way to be building your JavaScript. I think there's probably a lot of stuff in there, like this application that I built the static file for. It was I want to say, or it is 4, almost 5 years old. So there's a lot of kind of legacy code, old dependencies. There's probably stuff being bundled that hasn't actually been actively used. It does have tree shaking, it does have dead code elimination, but there's only so far that can go. So this works at the minute. You could drag any Webpack stats file into this. It's going to parse it through. It does it in a kind of ingenious way. I looked into the Webpack. So we do Webpack stats. Looking up Webpack give you what the schema of the JSON file. Because it's just a JSON file, they give you a schema, so you can kind of look through all the different data here and drill into the assets, which was to me the most important thing. So the assets is going to be your JavaScript files, your font files, image files, CSS files. I only really care about the JS because people are so anal around trying to I want to get the smallest bundle size possible. So I was like, right, if I grab all the assets, filter through, and if I pick up the size, so the size here is in bytes, and I think it is a floppy disk is 1.44 megabytes. So you can then do the calculation, say how many floppy disks would it take to hold this bundle, and that's more or less what we're doing. And we can flick over to the code as well, and we're going to be looking through a lot of the code here while we're doing it. So the core, this is our main app, and it's just a create React app. So there's nothing too fancy, nothing really inventive going on. That's our floppy icon, completely ripped from CodePen. And then so this is where I'm doing say how many total assets there was, what the size of the assets were, divided by our floppy disk amount, and then that tells us how many floppy disks that we can hold. So that's cool, that's grand. Just make sure I'm working off a clean branch here while I'm doing this, because the aim of this is to then also push this up to Netlify, so we have the final built version. So I do have some. So web URL. So we'll create a new branch called web URL. So first thing, because I use Netlify for hosting all these sites, I thought it'd be useful then to harness Netlify to do the web processing. So as far as I know, you can't just call to a website from your browser because of cross-site scripting. So if I was gonna, so in our app here, if I put in a use effect and try and call out to a site, and if you're in the chat, ask questions, stop me if I'm flying past through and things and not explaining what the hell's going on. I'll preface this is all built on React. I didn't go for style components in this case, I just went for raw CSS out of laziness, and I didn't want to define a bunch of styled components and have to give them names that make sense. So if we try, so what we need to do in essence is, jump into text. So we need to say user provides URL. We fetch the HTML for that, for the URL. So once we fetch the HTML for that URL, we can say find all script, final script tags that have a source attribute, so they're pointing to an external source. They're not an inline script file. I'm not too concerned about inline scripts. Modern web, people don't use them a lot. It's mainly just for a start script for your application, or if you're doing Google Analytics and that kind of thing. Oh, the wine's a bit tart. Yeah, so find all the script tags that have a source. Fetch. If I could type, fetch all the JS for the scripts. And then calculate the byte size of the JS. Then calculate the, I can spell it right that time, but I couldn't spell it right the first time. Then calculate the number of floppy disks. That's the core crux of what we're trying to build out. Simple-ish, I think. So I know how to do some of these things, but as I was saying, if I go back here, and I don't even have anything for fetching data yet, so we're gonna have to add that in first. Luckily enough, I have created my own package called useFetch. So npm. So go to one of my other packages to get to my username to get to my package. So I had built this out a while back, and it's just a really easy, quick package to use. Yeah, so @ChrisLaughlin/useFetch. So it's a React hook that allows us to use useFetch. So pull this in here. So this is just our example to prove that we can't do it in the browser. Gonna have to install it as a dependency. Then trigger it. So we don't have fetch options. Fetch options was for being able to do cancellation and aborting of the fetch. And then I guess we just say console.log these out. It's going to fail anyway, but we'll act like it's going to work. And for this, we're going to use a site that I'm going to be testing on. So it's going to be one of my own, because I want to be fetching and scraping something that I own and I care about and all that kind of blah blah shit. So technically this should fail, or should throw some sort of error. I don't know why that text is so small. So let's refresh this. Oh, I didn't start the site, did I? I was wondering why it hadn't failed already. I hadn't got the site started. So we're gonna, use fetch cannot be, instead of a callback, React hook must be called in a React function. What the feck? Oh, we don't need to put that inside useEffects because it handles that all for us. So let's run this again. Don't tell me this is going to work. Network. XHR. Okay, yeah. The get failed. Doesn't give me a response. Yeah, this won't work because of cross-site scripting. It won't allow you to go off and fetch from different websites unless they allow you from the origin. I don't know if it specifies it anywhere in here. But yeah, so like the Netlify server that's hosting this probably wasn't too pleased about that. But that's where Netlify functions come into play. So Netlify functions are serverless functions similar to an Amazon Lambda or whatever Microsoft calls them or whatever Google call them. It's a server-side function that I don't have to start a server and stop a server. I can just write it in JavaScript or whatever other language they support. I think it's just JavaScript and Go. And they're connected to your site. So apparently they're very easy to set up. So let's go to Netlify and go into the settings for Floppy Bundle. And we'll go to functions. So I don't really want to read all this. Let's try and skim over it. Is there like a thing? I think that is functions. That's all of it there. That'll only show up until I actually put them in. Netlify web interface, go to settings, functions, and enter a path for the directory. Maybe it's just under my core settings. If you use Netlify functions and you know what's going on, let me know. No, I'm pretty sure. I just create the function as long as I start writing functions. Oh no, you go to site. So that's really nice. Go to site settings, functions. So function directory not set. So we're going to just call it. Go with what the guide says. Adding functions field to your Netlify TOML. Oh, in Netlify web interface, go to settings, functions. Into the path to the directory in your repository where your serverless functions will be stored. You can also set this. Yeah, I don't have a Netlify TOML file, if that's what you pronounce them. We're just going to set it as /functions. So this will all come a little bit more apparent. So pretty sure the / just means it's in the root directory and then functions. So we don't need environment variables, we don't care about any other stuff. Let's build with JavaScript. I think they have some examples of it. So that's the format. So you kind of build out like it feels like an express like route or whatever. So we'll grab this example and add this to our repo, I guess. So we need to create that root folder called functions, and inside here we're going to add in a JavaScript file, and we'll call this hello, because that does the hello world thing, wasn't it? That's what they called it, I think. Yeah, hello.js. Yeah. Now we'll have to deploy this to do all the testing. Like that would be a pain in the hole. We don't want it to be redeploying every time we want to do it. I know that Netlify has a package called Netlify Dev, or like a CLI called Netlify Dev, which allows you to handle a lot of the stuff for you locally, so you don't have to do it. Do I have Netlify Dev already? So let's go to terminal, and as far as I remember reading about this, it'll start up Create React App for you too. So I should be able to just go Netlify Dev. Give it a few seconds. Yeah, okay. So it's picked up that I have a Create React App style application. The server's been pushed up. How do I call it again locally? So I've got that function. I will then want to actually be able to call it. There was something I seen here in the last example. So we'll keep that in a new tab because we need that. So we're learning a little bit here. We're figuring out how to do Netlify functions. Where's the, oh, here it was. So call from this, yeah, so if I call to there, so the root of my application, so it'll be /.netlify functions.hello world. I think I can quickly test this. So duplicate the site. I need to turn off that emulation. I put that in. That didn't do what I thought it would have done. Did our terminal throw an error out? No. Maybe it only works through fetch. So, right, let's change out our code. So now in here, we're going to say call to that. Just increase my terminal as well. Go to network. Hello. Okay, so hello didn't fail. Got a response. It was HTML. That's a bit shit. Oh, well, maybe not that one. So let's clear out our console here and try to run this to see if it'll call that hello. It's getting a redirect. Why is it getting a redirect? It should be getting the actual response as our yeah, so we just didn't get started with the docs. I don't really want to have to read this. There's an FI CLI, but I don't really need, I don't think I need that at the minute. Features in beta, awesome. That's going to take me back to where I was. Notify dev in the Netlify CLI repository. I remember I've looked at this before. Unless I call localhost 888 as part of the call. Doesn't seem right, but let's see. Oh, that's failed. What did it fail with? Yeah, Google Chrome had changed their error handling and it doesn't really look that great. Come on, I did this before. I have another repo somewhere, sitting here somewhere that has calls Netlify and I can't remember what one of, if in doubt, look at some old code. Say package. It was, I had an npm package checker which went off and fetched from GitHub. So .netlify state.json site ID. Ooh, I don't know what that's for. It's public anyway, so if it's sensitive, you can find it all. Yeah, so this is my functions, and that looks normal. So how did I call that in my code? Yeah, I just called it like that. So I hit fetch to that. Maybe because I'm not providing, I'm not providing the content or anything like that. I'm just using the raw fetch for this. Interesting. Maybe I need to pass in the headers. So this is my fetch options. Which I thought I didn't need, but it turns out I do. So, is that an object already? Yep. This is really indented badly. I can fix this, So this isn't a post, it's a get, I think. What does our script do? Does it take, yeah, it just returns, it doesn't take any parameters. So, let's see if we've made a call yet. Oh, okay, we got 200. So we need to specify what the request type was. Still a fucking HTML page. The fuck? Maybe it's our actual request doesn't return what we think it should be. So callback status body hello world. What are we doing wrong? We're doing something wrong. So that's calling get packages from repo. If I search for that file, what does it return? Very end. Stage code 200. Yeah, parses the body. Blah blah blah. Nothing unexpected. And it should be JSON. Try some of the commands that it provides us. So, our hello isn't there at all, which is weird. Identify functions create. Identify can also create service functions for you locally as part of identify functions. This service function, blah 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 blah. Once you've configured, maybe I do need that configuration file. Do I have one in this? Yeah, I have one in here. Yeah, I think I need to do that. So I think I was just trying to skip shit that I actually needed to do. So we need to create a Netlify like YAML style config. Yeah, we'll treat that as text. So clear this, and then we'll go Netlify functions list. Lol function code. The fuck are they coming from? Let's try just Netlify dev to see what happens. So it started our web server on 8.8.8.8. We've got our create React app going. So clear network, clear, and then let's reload this. It's still giving me back raw, like the full site. It's not actually picking up that that's a function, which is weird. And it doesn't output any information for me, which is not useful whatsoever. I bet you I'm calling the wrong fucking thing, aren't I? Nope. Well, I noticed in the docs it says it has a CLI for creating a function. So I guess let's call this. Do they have .netlify? I'm gonna have to put it inside a .netlify function, aren't I? No. Or I put it at the root. I didn't put it inside source. Unless that's what's going on. So let's go back to my sites, look for package checker to see how it's configured. This is super exciting stuff, isn't it? Functions, settings, source functions. I think it's a /. I'm gonna switch to source functions because I've done it elsewhere and it worked for me. Now the elsewhere was copy pasta, so if I copy pasta again, so drop that in there. Anyway, it doesn't matter because I haven't pushed it up yet, but it will matter whenever I go to do it. And if I take functions, move that into source, refactoring, it'll not refactor anything for me because I haven't done anything to it. And then in our Netlify side, build functions, run build lambda. Yeah, I think that's everything. So clear and run this again. trying to trigger this by going .notify /functions /hello. What did we get? What did we get? Still didn't fucking work. Could try info cache reload. Make sure everything's maybe something's been cached somewhere. So 200, but I bet you fiber. This is full HTML. Fuck you so much. Right. Time to test the CLI create function. See if this works. So right, kill this. Hopefully it's an interactive CLI. No. Build function is not specified. Creating it. Can't make directories. Let's give it sudo. So we're just giving it admin rights. We're trying to give it admin rights. There we go. So yeah, fuck it. I wonder if we just push this up as the build source and see what would happen. So we haven't fucked anything up much more than that I can actually see. So let's push this up and see if a Netlify build will actually handle this. I'm trying to see any differences of what I had in that previous example. Is that a proxy? Oh shit. Is there something to do with Create React app doesn't like doing stuff like this because it looks like I have a target and something else. I wish the docs were better. I suppose it's in a beta, so we can't handle too much. But right, we're going to fire up the built version. Oh, we created a branch web URL. Just going to do it all off master. So, hopefully if we push this up, this is going to start triggering a rebuild, and we'll actually see the live code running and see if that makes a difference for us. Although I have a feeling, I had to do shit before where I had to, with Create React app, you have to trigger proxies to bypass something to do with Create React app, and so while that's going off in the background, Create React app, we'll just create a wee branch and we're going to test out dragging some of this shit into it. So we're going to do set up proxy. Is that in source or written source? Yep. New JS file. Grab the contents. So you can like set up like proxy stuff. I'm pretty sure it was running my server in 8888. So that's what I think I need to do. Now I probably need to do something with that proxy. What I'm imagining is going to be something in the package JSON that tells it about it, or Create React app can pick that up itself. I think my lights automatically came on as well. So I can't see anything here to do with proxy. I just search proxy in here, it'll catch anything for me. I install HTML middleware proxy. So let's jump back to Netlify to see what our build's doing. It failed. They always fail. npm run build lambda. Do I have that in here? I love how none of this was in the docs. So git stash co package JSON. I'm going to fire this script in and see if that works. Fuck you. Get push. I have like autocorrect and all my kind of stuff because I can never type the right commands. Npm run build. Ah, okay, build lambda. So I think this kind of tells Netlify how to build it whenever it's doing something. Did I do the readme for this? Of course not. So what was my last command? Yeah, push. So that's going to build again. So we'll let that build. Go back and git stash pop. Brings our changes back in. Stash. I committed those extra files. So git co git co. Did that do anything? What am I on? Yeah. Git merge master. No, I don't mean init. Git merge master. Git stash pop. Then did I do run or build lambda? Or did I just try Netlify dev? Let's try Netlify dev on this branch now to see what it does. Ooh, proxy is not found. Did I lose that proxy file? Set up proxy. Yeah. Power warnings. And it failed again. I imagine I'm missing something here. Netlify dev, create React app. This is probably around before. So it doesn't automatically work with create React app. You need to do things. It does out of the box. Only using Netlify Lambda if you need to build a step for your functions. That's only if I need to write a build step for a function, which we might try and get away with not doing whatsoever. So let's stash this. Let's go back and try and figure this out. So put back the master, and we're going to rip out the shit that we don't care about. So I don't need that set of proxy. We have our function, hello, which should return hello world. Our app is calling that. The package JSON doesn't need this. I don't even think we need that Netlify YAML file. So Netlify dev on this. If it builds, it builds, and we'll figure this out. So it started. Let's see what happens. It's going to return the HTML. I know, right, fine, rightly. Why are you doing that? Is it right? Is our function actually even getting called? This is the crux of it. So let's go to our function. Hello. Can we fire in a console log here? So loads of text. Let's see if this has hit. So I don't think it'll automatically hot reload off our server functions. Doesn't even log out anything either, which is really annoying. So, right, request headers, application JSON, which it should be. Do I need to specify anything? I don't know if you just heard that, a random fucking crow came past, sign of the death. So what is going on? We've copied this in. If we call that, it should call it. Just to make sure that's definitely hello. Hello.js, yep, and our source / functions. But it doesn't know where to find the function. Because I haven't deployed yet, so how does it know where to find it? Configure. Add a functions field to your netlify.toml file. Because my local won't know to go find it there. I haven't told anything anywhere how to find it. Maybe that's the case. So if we just Google that file. File-based configuration. Yeah, I think we definitely need one of these then, because we have to tell our local Netlify setup how to like find where the things are going. So new file. It starts with build. It seems to be indented functions. So functions for us is going to be src/functions/. I think that's all we need right now. So kill this, restart. I think that's maybe the case. I think Netlify functions don't know where to serve up the lambdas from. Got to redirect, so no, I don't really hit that location. Yeah, because if I go into my code and try and hit that directly, it's not going to hit it either. This is going to be another one of those ones where I'll struggle and it's fucking a typo somewhere. So let's just try going to this directory. It's file based. That should be taking me to a JSON file. If anyone watching along knows what I'm doing wrong, shout out, because I'm hitting a brick wall here. Let's see, Netlify. Local func. Let's see what's going on. So we got an example here. Someone's running a similar issue. Trying to skim through to see what's going on. It's kind of annoying that Create React app wipes clean the terminal whenever it starts, so I can't see all that kind of stuff. I wonder if I change you to you're fucking kidding me. Now that's going to be cross-site scripting, so I can't use that. how do I get it to work with Create React App? Right, let's search again with Create React App. So Netlify, come on, get Netflix. Netlify dev Create React App. So is that Lambda version of it? I don't think we actually need that, do we? Yeah, it's this contracted here. We might have to just rip this repo, like fork this repo and rewrite it to work for us. Hopefully not, hopefully not. Hopefully we can get this going. I say you may not need this, blah blah blah. But it's obviously not working. See, this is explaining, so it's hosting it. What do I just go to localhost? Oh shit. Oh, you fucking kidding me. So I said local 6000, I go to localhost. Oh, it's been working the whole time. Right, so, right, let's move on. Let's move on. It was working the whole time, I was just going to the wrong address. So, that can just be slash. Yeah, they need to make that clear. The fucking docs. Well, you know, I seen it in the terminal, but it flicked away really quickly and didn't tell me what was going on. So we've got this hello function. We're going to stick with our hello function. So in here we need to take in parameters. So like I think there's a Netlify functions examples. Yes. Functions examples that have examples of using the functions in different ways. I want, first of all, I need an async. I would prefer an async function so I can do promise-based stuff. So let's replace that out. I wonder, are our logs working as well? So right, we'll make that change. I'll have to probably kill this and restart it. Oh no, fucking, it does auto read those as well. Okay, so that was a good near enough an hour wasted, but we're getting there. Okay, so we can log out to this too, so that's fine. That's good. We're flying now. So I need to take in body parameters because the user is going to provide a URL. I don't want to do it through query string. We're going to do it as a post and get it off the body. So hello name post version. Let's make sure we only process post requests for your customized greeting. So query string parse body. Why are we doing query string? When the method is post, the name will be the name will no longer be in the events. Query string parameters, it'll be in the event body, encode it as a query string, so encodes it as a query string in the body. So let's grab this one. Fine, here, I don't think we have query string installed. So let's add that. Floppy, and then yarn add query string. So okay, it'll fail if it's not a body, and then we want to say URL or fuck. So in our app, this is now going to be use fetch method is post body. Body or the data. Let's go back to this. Do I have a fetch or post example? So it uses the fetch API. I have a link to the fetch options. Let's get a post example using fetch. It's body, and it has to be a stringified version of the body. So this is going to be URL. And for now, we're going to make it our dyslexic developer URL. Fire that in there. So now when we run this, 3,500. We're getting somewhere, we're getting somewhere. Does it need to be restarted? Can I use import statement instead of a module? See, this is where we'll run issues because it runs off like a node-like syntax. So it's going to be equals require, which is going to harper a lot of what we're going to be able to actually do. So come on, modified, reloading. Still reloading. Quicker to kill this and restart it. Okay, so we are running. Let's clear everything out and restart this. So hello returned. Oh fuck, so it didn't get the URL parameter for us. Params, so person to body to params.url URL. Let's see, what is body look like, and what does params look like? I'm not missing anything. Yep, header, body, post. So the site doesn't reload anymore. Come on, modify and reload. I don't know if this is actually picking up a hot reloading like it says. It's picking up, it's modified, reloading, dot 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 dot. I don't know if that's it reloaded. Let's refresh. So that's the body. No prototype. Let the body look like an object. It wasn't wrapped in strings, so I don't think we actually need to do. I think we can just go event.body .url. What does this look like? I don't suspect that is updating so quickly. Undefined. Type of. So it's a string. So, okay. That's a string. So we need to JSON parse that. Why can't I just JSON parse it? Why would a body be formatted like a query string. I don't think that's right. I think they fucked up. Yeah, so what did it return? Didn't give me the right thing yet still. So get rid of params. I don't care about params. I think we can deal with this. Because that was a string. We parsed it. I logged it out. So let's say create a data attribute to hold our parsed JSON, and then we can say data.url and data.url. Refresh because it seems to be super quick. Okay, hello. Yeah, okay, right. So we can send data, understand it, retrieve it. We don't need this stupid query parameter shit. That was just a red herring. So we now need to do the actual interest part. So we've got the URL for the site. So let's say, oh yeah, we still want. Well, I know I'm going to do that anyway. So we can say .url. So we've got the URL that we're dealing with. We now need to then fetch off to get that. Now, the fact that it understands async makes me think I can understand await. And I think I've seen in one of the examples they had shown using node fetch. And when I bring node, when I do that, it's probably going to complain because I'm not able to find it. So reload it, go back to floppy and reload. Okay, it's thrown 500. Cannot use import statement outside of a module. So if I can do const fetch equals require node fetch instead of import, then I should have an asynchronous tool to allow me to fetch data, which is going to be super useful for this. Cool. So we're getting somewhere. So let's say, right. So first thing we need to do is we need to fetch the data for, or fetch the HTML for that site so we can scrape the tags out of it. We should be able to fetch against it. So I want to look at node fetch API to see how they handle things. I'm assuming it's just a kind of carbon copy of the fetch API for JavaScript, but for Node. Give me the quick and easy way of doing it. Yep, fetch, and that does then, which means if it's then, it's a promise which I can await on. But it's one of those thens, so I think I can do that. Or there's async await. Async await fetch JSON. There's a way that you can chain the fetches that I can't remember how to do. Because the first call and then the second call are asynchronous. Yeah, so response to text returns a promise. There's like a double fetch or double await that you can do. Skimming this document isn't really telling me about that. But I don't need to do that actually. So let's grab this. So I should really go const site HTML equals URL dot then dot text await. Why is that complaining? log this out. Okay, re-rendered. Yeah, we know you're quick. So refresh. Okay, yes, that's good, that's good, that's good. A big block of text, but we don't care. Right, so where do we go from here? The next thing we can use is this thing, Cheerio. npm Cheerio. So it sounds funny, Cheerio, and I was listening to podcasts recently, they were talking about Cheerio. I used this like decades ago for doing web scraping, but Cheerio is jQuery for Node. And you might think, like, why the fuck would you need jQuery for Node? For this perfect example, like if you want to scrape a site and interact with HTML without having to have a browser running, so like you think, but when you use jQuery or you use like query selector, you need to be in a browser because it has the APIs and all that kind of environment set up around you. But with Cheerio, you don't actually need that. So we can pull in Cheerio. And then, so Cheerio, it leans you towards this jQuery like syntax, which we're going to roll with. We're going to roll with. In this case, it's saying load and it's passing HTML, but we can pass it our site HTML. So now we can then say console.log $script. This should then log out, well, something to do with all the scripts that we have on the page. So go back to terminal, all okay, refresh. Am I still logging at the other thing? Oh, I'm still looking at the full site. We don't need that. So, okay, reloaded. So, right, this is the object notation of all these different scripts. We don't care too much. But the beauty is, Cheerio works very much the same as using like the browser-based API that we use for everything else. So we can do stuff like this. So in the browser, I can test out what I'm looking for. And because HTML is semantic and declarative enough and unified enough that we can make a lot of assumptions. So script. It's going to give us, it gives back one here, but I'm pretty sure there's more. If I do document dot query selector, it's going to act more like the browser API. So query selector all script. So we got 12 scripts. But as I said before, not all these are scripts that have data. So I want scripts that have a source attribute, because if we look at the elements panel here, go script, so some do, like that one, okay, like that doesn't have a source attribute, so we don't care about that. So we go back to our console and we can say, and because document query selector gives you a node list, not an actual array, we need to do array from around it, not format, from, that'll give us an array, and we can say filter script, we say script, like we want to filter out ones where script dot attribute, is it? I was playing about this before. We're going to first log out. Dot log script. What does that give us? What if we do console log object dot keys to get all the accessible methods for our script? That's not really helping us too much. Let's see what Cheerio will do for us. So array from, and we're going to use this instead of query selector. And instead of filter, we're going to say for each script console.log. Okay, scripts reloaded, go back to floppy, trigger reload, and then see what it runs out. So we have a couple of different things in each of them. Tribs is probably their shorthand for attributes. So your attribute would be the thing that holds the different attributes. So for script tag, it's going to be source async is one of them. Type, so if it's like a JSON script or an XML script or JavaScript, that kind of thing. I'm only concerned with scripts that have sources. So let's log out everything that has, or the src for everything. So that's built already. Go back to here, refresh. So, okay, so now we have a list of the sources for each of the scripts. So we can notice here that they all have a slash, which shows that they're loaded from the root source of that application. So they belong to that application. In some contexts, you might have it being, some cases it might be a fully qualified URL where it's potentially loading something from unpackage or something else like that. So there's a couple of things we can do. So first, we want to be able to fetch this JavaScript for each of these. So let's store this. So we can say const script locations equals this, and we want to say, well, first we want to filter to only get the scripts that have a source. So I don't want inline scripts. It's not equal to undefined. And then I want to map over this and get only the source value. Okay, so we got our script locations. So we're going to log this out. Our script is our function is reloaded. Go back to our page, refresh, go back to our function. So now we have an array of these. So this is just the scripts that have been loaded on the page. They're all ending in .js. We don't need to really check against that yet. If we wanted to fully fledge this, we would do a little bit more. So what do we do with this now? So we now need to fetch each of these. We know, and as you notice, they all start with a slash. So we know the base URL already because that's the URL that they provided. So we can assume that's the base URL. This is the end of the content. So let's go off and fetch the actual JavaScript for each of these. So we can say, so this is going to be looping over multiple asynchronous calls. So promise.all is probably going to be our best bet. So we can say const full scripts equals await promise.all, and then we map over our locations to then return a promise for each of these. So location, did it go location? Location, we'll spell it out. Even I can't spell. So for each location, we're going to say const. How do we fetch we fetch the site just by that, didn't we? So we're going to just replicate this. Let's say raw.js equals await. What do you complain about? use and then async. The whole function's async. The await operator can only be used inside an async function. So does this have to be async? Okay, apparently it does. So fetch URL, then res text, boom. So I guess it's the raw.js for that, and then we do return raw.js. Although, I want to say, what if it's not a fully qualified URL? We'll hand it after, just time's sake. So now, full scripts. This is going to be a huge logout, so we might not even be able to see what's going on in this, but we know we had a green there before we did anything else. This will be able to store, yeah. Okay, so this is good. So it's piping out a shit ton of stuff. Piping out a shit ton of HTML. Which I wouldn't expect to do. So if I go to the select the developer, go to the elements, like they're all JS files. So clear this out, restart. I wanna, oh yeah, they're all failing because I forgot to put the location in. It's just been fetching the raw site URL each time. So let's turn this into a template string. We're going to say URL slash. Now, if it already has a slash at the end, slash always evaluates the slash, so we don't have to worry about that too much. Then add in the location. Get rid of that URL there. Then reload the function. Go back to our Floppy site. Go back here. Yeah, so that's like a shit ton of actual JavaScript. This is awesome. This is awesome. So we're making headway. We're making headway. Right. So we have an array of all our full scripts, which is just big, huge blocks of text. So now I need to think about what am I returning to the UI to be able to give it the total asset. Well, I wanted to actually return all the assets, but I want to do the calculation on the front for it. I don't want it to have to do the calculation for itself, or do I? There's a lot of data to send back to the UI. I want to send back how many floppies, how is it done at the minute? So I just give it an array of assets. Oh, I give an array of assets, and the assets have a size. And it calculates. So I need to provide it with an object or an array of assets, and the assets have a size. Nothing else from what I can see was actually being used on the assets itself, just the length of it and the size. So I need to turn that into an array now. So I can say, so I need to calculate the actual size of each. So I'm going to say const result. I'm being very creative about all this stuff. It's going to be full scripts.map. Can I get away with script, or is it being used somewhere else? No, it's fine. So I'm going to map over these. I'm going to say return. Now this is kind of matching up to the format that the Webpack stats takes. So I go size. Now, how do we calculate the size of things? I think I've done this before, actually, in a while back for work. There's a new API you can use. So you can see new, and it's the text encoder. So I create a new text encoder dot encode, and then I give it the actual data that I'm concerned with, which for us is going to be our script. And then I do dot length, and that will give me the length in bytes for that text. So technically I should then be able to say pass that back. So I'll have an array of numbers, and each of those are the size of bytes for the JavaScript that was loaded for that page. Before I actually fit, right, while we're in here, so in these cases, so I'm building up that full URL. If location dot index, because we're working with Node, it doesn't have the latest APIs, index of, if it has HTTP in it, then it probably is a fully qualified URL. So index of is greater than -1, isn't it? You do this, or greater than, what is the fucking index of? That's actually, does it have include? Because it has a sync. It contains. A string contains, or an array contains. Include sounds like array. Say string contains, it is. I can never remember if string is contains or includes. So let's break us out a little bit more so it's readable. So if it contains HTTP, then just use the location, else build up this templated URL. And then do our tally. Loading. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I knew. So the version of Node that these are on just don't have that. So it's gonna have to be. It's going to be JavaScript index of, but index of is like this thing you do is like index of greater than -1 or something. It's not equal to -1. That's what I was looking for. So giraffe doesn't exist there. So yeah, so if it's not equal to -1, it was found. So then use that, else use the other one, and let's move that down. So it's there. So function rebuilt, app, reload, no error. Oh, no fuck. Error during navigation, incorrect function body response. Probably has to be stringified. So JSON.stringify. Function reloaded, reload page, check terminal, got our list. It's going through fetching each of these, so this will be a little bit slow. Probably put a spinner up for this. Oh no, responded with status 200. Shit, okay, I finished before I even thought. Okay, so we've got our sizes. That was really quick to fetch all that data. And this isn't going off the locals, this is going off the real site. So let's now update our app. So we have our file upload, which is wrapped in the error boundary, but I also need to provide, we're going to do a text input, and it's going to be a shitty looking text input because we're already going over time, but so create div, set assets, so const set URL. So we need to hold our URL value. Not use effect, use state, use state, and empty string by default. Input value equals URL. On change is evt, and it's going to be set URL to be evt.target.value, and then button go. So our button's going to have to trigger our action for us. So on click, can we do this, or no, this is only called so creating another bit of pointless state, but fetch from URL. So we need something to trigger this for us. This is going to be false by default. And we want to say if there is data, set fetch from URL back to false. So we can trigger this again. Oh, I can map this in an if statement, can I? If this is kind of complaining because it's inside of an if statement, doesn't it? So we might have to dump our fetch shit. So or I could just use the native fetch. Yeah. This is only just to get things working, so this thankfully fetch takes the same API. So we can get rid of this and this and this. I'm gonna just use the browser native fetch, so I can say fetch then res.json dot then data set assets data. So that's gonna send off our post method with this needs to be then. This is gonna be URL. I can make that the one thing, simplify it. I don't need my use fetch anymore. Use fetch came in handy for the start of it. So compiler a lot better. Right, so I don't expect this to work first time. Clear and everything. That looks dog shit, but we'll fix it. Use floppy, paste it in, go. Oh shit, so a third of a floppy disk across 8 assets. Okay, not bad. Let's see if we can clean this up a little bit. So there's a lot of crap here. Why is that? So let's say margin top 50 pixels, break it down. Okay, that worked decent enough. Then our input, so let's style this up first. We're going to call this URL entry. Class name and entry. And we have a CSS file. So we have an index CSS file. We're going to style this up. So it was margin top 50 pixels. Inspect our input. We can style this up a bit. So let's do width. I go 100 pixel. Probably take out the 2. And we're going to go height 50 pixel. 20. And then we're going to say background transparent, border 1 pixel. So I'll go for dash because I'm dashed. Black dashed. I can make that a little wider. Bring it up to 3. Background now. The background looks terrible transparent. Let's color pick from the site and grab this text color. And then color is going to be red for now, but I'm going to color pick the red that I have here. And font size. I'm using M's in this actually. It says make this 2 EM. If that would work. Or is it RAM I'm using? What's the body text? 8 pixel. Header is 6 EM. So we'll make that 4. And then padding for EM2. No. Make that 0.5. The background looks terrible. It's not the same color. That's better. Spent so much good time styling the rest of this shit, but then all this, everything else went to fucking hell. So URL entry, input, and then we need our button to match the same. So inspect. So our button's going to be the same height. I need to do the pattern as well. Just want them to match the same height. Or not. Carry across the font size. I'm going to probably just copy all the styles from this, except for the width. Not aligned, you piece of shit. I'm going to flex boxes or display flex direction as row. Justify content. Center. Align items. Center. So that'll do for the main div. Why is our button so fucked up? Okay, so 3.1 works for that. Button. How responsive is that? How do I fuck it? We're getting So yeah, so like if I go to, let's say, twitch.tv, grab that, let's see what it'll do for me. So it would take 2.62 floppy disks across all 4 assets. So let's kill this, let's add this, let's add a comment. Let's push this up to see if this actually works on the real Netlify website. Fingers crossed time. So we push that up. Let's go to somewhere we have our deployments. So we've got a build for Floppy Bundle. Let's pray it does not fail. So once this gets deployed, we're going to probably kill there. Anyone in the chat, any questions or anything, you know, shout out, let me know what you're thinking, what's going on. I think it was very fun. We were able to do like multiple asynchronous requests through serverless function with minimal configuration, and we've turned it into like a fun little project where like you can type in your URL and get how many floppy disks it takes. Now, one caveat is if you do code splitting on your site, then you're loading those after the fact. But I like to think of this, this bundle phobia that people have is to do with the first render and not any previous loaded files. Site is live, so let's go to the live version. Let's grab dyslexic developer. Let's go back here and type it in. Go. So yeah, okay, 0.3 floppy disk. Yeah, let's try. Stack Overflow. How many scripts do they have running on their site? I can do with a little spinner here, but it's relevant. 0.10 floppy disks would take to hold all their first resolved assets. But yeah, I think it was pretty cool. Thanks everyone for watching.